Cool, cool, cool. Works
Hello,
for me.
hello, and welcome to Indiepocalypse Radio. I'm your host, Andrew. Indiepocalypse Radio, of course, being your weekly radio show where we talk to game developers and people within the game adjacent space or art adjacent space or just a lot of, I think, art adjacent or art specifically or art world, art world. We'll call it the art world. Because I would say art is quite adjacent to the art space. Um, if you were here during the pre-show, you saw a lot of cool glitch videos, and our guest, our solo show guest here today, Zoe Wolf, made those videos. Hello, Zoe. How are
Hello,
you doing
hi.
today?
I'm doing good. I'm caffeinated.
Ah, yes, I am. I enjoy nature's caffeine, which is not ever drinking coffee.
I salute you.
It
I
is.
do not understand.
It's. No, I've. But like the secret trick of that actually is that I learned when I don't get sleep is that when I drink coffee, it works really well.
That's true. Then it becomes like a superpower,
Right.
whereas I get debilitating headaches when I don't take it. So now it's just a
Yes,
dependency.
there's a period of time where in our refrigerator people are getting those like caramel macchiato mixes, and
Ooh,
I like to taste the caramel, so I would drink them, and then the carton would run out, and then I was like, why do I feel sleepy and exhausted and like I have a headache?
yeah, that's familiar.
And it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
now it's like a mini game. Every day I have to hunt down coffee or else something happens.
right, right. But we're not here to talk about coffee and Java necessarily. We're here to talk about your work. And if people weren't here for the pre-show, or they're like, what exactly was that? Um, how exact how would you describe um, your work?
The term I usually use is video art because that kind
Yes.
of encompasses both editing and like crazy effects.
Yeah.
Uh,
Is that
I
what
I
I had that same problem where it's like usually I'll put like a little thing next to a person like what are they? I put video artist because that's what you put as well.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to get jobs as because I think it encompasses like both sides of it. Um, but like I don't just edit, I also have an obscene pile of like analog tech to
Right.
do like glitch visuals. Um, which I kind of like as I got into it realized is like a massive scene when I used to think it was like a very like niche thing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's like a very I would just a phrase I've been saying to myself is like it's like a not easily observable scene. You know.
yeah, you have to be kind of plugged in. I'm in too many discords and
Right.
I'm following too many people on many social media sites. Um, but yeah, like especially like the video remix scene, or I guess there's multiple ones I'm a part of. Generally the only people who show up for it are like other artists, or like your like diehard regulars.
Yes.
But
Yes.
otherwise, like most people don't know about it.
You're speaking to someone who also is in the field that was called I would that is probably called the artist field. You know.
Yeah.
Which is it is. One second, let me turn myself. I thought I was quiet. Let me turn myself up more. Oh, you know what? I think I accidentally decreased my gain all the way. How's
Uh,
the volume?
now you're boosted. You're crunchy.
Okay, let me uncrunch a little.
uh,
How am I now?
I think your gain was fine before, but your output on maybe the stream was bad.
Okay. That's what I thought. I increased it on the stream because we did. Um, who knows? Who knows? I increased it on the stream as high as it'll go. Uh, so hopefully that will be good. I've gotten closer to the microphone. I'm inside the microphone.
Uh,
Weirdly,
you're definitely very boosted.
yes. Let me.
Your waveform is a rectangle right now.
Ah, yes. I okay. Okay, it's just on speakers. Whatever. I'll figure it out. I don't know how to. I don't know what to do with it at this point. It just kind of is what it is. I thought I had not. I don't think I had adjusted anything, but it could be some weird like I restarted my computer and then things got mad at me. Settings got readjusted. Oh, you know, I wonder if it's within voice meter when you adjust things.
Oh, voice meter is like that.
Where is my input in that? I don't. I don't know. Who knows? I'm saying it looks good now. I'm hitting the yellows pretty regularly, so I'm calling it good.
Cool.
Good enough for me. Um,
Warm and fuzzy.
yes, but you were saying gallery shows, glitch artists visiting other glitch artists. Uh, so
Yeah. What's it called? I'm part of a scene that's called like waivers or waving. And it started like I guess back in 2020. A bunch of video editors during the early pandemic got together and formed Racer Trash, and they started by remixing Speed Racer
okay,
into like a glitched out mess of a movie, and then they just kept doing other movies. And I think they kept that going for like 2 years and disbanded. And then everyone who had like shown up to that scene decided to like go off and make their own stuff. And that's
yeah,
around when I showed up. And now I've been doing that for like a year or two.
okay,
The Pokemon video in the pre-show was part of a movie that we called Pokemon the Low First movie. It doesn't sound good out loud,
yes,
but
but it
it's
probably as a visual it works. I imagine, right? Is that,
yeah, no, it was incredible. And it's one of the few that so most of these movies only exist like very ephemerally on
right,
Twitch streams. Like we premiere them on Twitch and then like they just kind of sit on the artist's hard drives. Everyone's free to do what they want with their own work. Like I upload everything I do to YouTube, and most other artists upload their segments to Vimeo. Um, but like to get the full movie is sometimes kind of hard. You either have to like search the name of the project and find everyone's individual segments, or hope that the project captain like put it on archive.org,
right,
um,
because
which there's a lot.
yeah, because these are all dubious legalities, but I think you probably get lucky enough that they just like ran through so much nonsense. I say as a positive term that it probably escapes content filters to some regard.
You'd be surprised. So like I haven't used YouTube as a platform until I started uploading my like remixes.
Yeah.
And it's been very informative about like how unrecognizable or recognizable some of my videos are.
Right.
Um, Usually the music gets flagged because I don't mess with it much.
Okay.
Um, but like that Pokemon one, even though I like gain crunched the audio and I like completely distorted the visuals, they were still too recognizable to the algorithm. So that one got copyright blocked like worldwide.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, because I knew it was like aggressive because I accidentally forgot to shave off probably approximately like 3 seconds of a song from my breaks, and they caught it like,
yeah.
and that's just like
Um,
the 3 second end of something. So I guess that if they can do it through like super crunchy audio, uh,
I think with Pokemon, it's because people are like constantly trying to circumvent it. I
oh
remember like, God, was it 10 years ago at this point? When Rick and Morty first came out, I was watching episodes on YouTube, and I didn't realize for the longest time that they had actually pitch shifted it and were like playing the episodes on a tiny TV in the like YouTube window
right.
to try to like get around it.
I've seen plenty of that. That is like my favorite version of getting around piracy, or not piracy, but getting around YouTube's restrictions, is like putting in a smaller screen. As if,
Yeah. I considered doing that with my Pokemon video, but I haven't bothered. It's on my website if anyone
Right,
wants to
right.
see that one. But yeah, um, looking at my YouTube, almost every single one of my videos has a copyright restriction on it. So like I can't monetize anything.
Right, but also I've looked at like when I started uploading the show to YouTube, I was like, oh, it'll be another form of just like pennies, but also Twitch makes pennies. It's pennies everywhere, but like more penny streams. It's like I can't even make pennies until I get like 1,000 followers or something.
Yeah, yeah, it's at a scale that I'd rather just get my stuff out there because
Right.
like commissions are always going to make you more work than YouTube, and I
Yeah.
as much as I aspire to, I can't sit in front of a camera and edit a video a week for people on YouTube and chase that algorithm. I just make art when I can, and
Right. It's. I feel the hustle side of like art is like wholly unsustainable unless you have that secret reason why you can do it full time.
yeah, I'm finally hit the point where I can't do it full time anymore.
Right.
I used to work in tech until about January last year, and then I got laid off, and I had already been super burnt out at that point. And I've been doing art for about a year, so I just went, well, I have some tech money laid over. My partner's got a good job. I'm gonna just do freelance indefinitely. And now I have run out of money, so now I
Right.
have to look for work again.
Yeah, that's the the curse with money is it always runs out. Uh, and I don't know how like I just don't have the anxiety to not have a job. It's just like don't know what I would do because it's like oh I know where it runs out too quickly. But
Yeah,
it's also that it's the curse of art of like it, I feel like people funnel towards huge um, make or break efforts, rather than like, hey,
yeah.
let's build out a sustainable base where people make a little, not a lot, but like a lot of people make a little rather than a few people making a lot.
Exactly. And like mostly, like honestly, most of the work I've done since I started freelance has been free, like collab
Right,
work, and it's not even like for other people's paid projects. It's just like, all those like remix projects are just because people love to do it.
right.
And those get me work, so it's like you have to work to get work.
Yeah,
Um,
you have to put a lot of time in just generally to do something like to get anywhere really.
my idea is that like I've been doing this for, I guess, at cost for like 2, 3 years now.
Yeah.
So that now that I'm hunting for jobs again, I don't have to look for tech work anymore. Fingers crossed.
Right, right. Yeah, I will never in my life work a job where when that 8 hour hits, I don't just immediately punch out and I'm gone.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, it was bad after a while, but
Yeah.
it paid really well. I
Yes.
miss money.
Right, right. But you know what I like when people say, "Do you have Teams on your phone?" And I go, "No, I'm not. I don't have Teams when I'm not. Why would I do that? I'm not on my. When I'm at work and I'm on the clock, it's on my computer. When I'm not at work,
Yeah.
it's on my phone. Why would I need it? I'm not getting paid."
And the struggle with freelance is that
Yeah.
you're always on the clock,
Right.
maybe.
Yes.
It's really hard to tell. Like, am I on social media because I'm trying to advertise my brand, or am I just like scrolling? And it's always maybe sometimes both.
Right. I think that's like the true curse of like um, Twitter's downfall is that like I think people had like a good enough like disdain for it when it was supposedly good that you could just like be on there and post strictly like promotional style. But I feel like in the more fractured version, I feel like there's more of an expectation. Like, oh, be part of our community. Be an active X site user, not X site, Y site user. Um,
Yeah, I feel like the most successful accounts on the sites I'm on are just shit posters, and
yes,
I love it, but it's also like, man, I just want to make art. I'm not that funny all the time. Well, at
right,
least not publicly. And
yeah.
I don't want to be because I feel very vulnerable doing that.
I,
But like,
I, I don't have time to post random Pokemon wiki entries constantly. Okay, I,
yeah,
I just I don't have time to be as online as you, capital Y you, the super user that is
the
a
super
person.
user. Yeah. And like I've done pretty well for myself, but then I like look at other accounts and they're like 3 to 10 times more like metrics or whatever, and I'm like,
Right,
ah, why I need to not compare myself.
right. Because there was a time when I saw there was a Twitter account that was like posting the original source images for memes, and it gained roughly like 700,000 followers in like 6 months. I go, all right, this doesn't really matter. Like,
Ah.
like
Oh
what?
yeah. I used to run like a pixel art curation Tumblr, which is just shorthand for like I would post other people's art and like
Right.
link to where I found it. Uh, and I was always like, wow, I have so many followers. This is incredible. And then I like realized I'm like, oh yeah, this is easier than actually making your own work. No wonder this
Yes.
is like most of social media.
Right, and a lot of that, like, I bet little of that, like, I mean, I saw this when people were like posting about, oh, Twitter doesn't matter because it doesn't get like I have 20,000 followers, but it doesn't translate to people playing my game at all, or wish list. And then I think to myself, I'm like, I've never seen a single person. I've never seen that person's post ever actually talking about their game or anyone talking about their game. Though I've seen that person a lot, they, but as like a poster, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I go like, "Oh, this poster does things." Like they have
Yeah.
like an album? I didn't even know they
Right.
made music.
Right. Exactly. Cause, and then you're like, because that stuff doesn't like getting good at a website. I don't think really. I mean, I have very outsized success compared to the numbers that say followers. Not to say I'm successful in any way, but it's very outsized compared to like anyone with like 20K. I have like 3,000. I have maybe 5,000. No, that's overestimating. I have probably 3,000 unique followers across every site. But
That's pretty good.
yeah,
Honestly, like I'm like close to that, and I mean, I clearly freelance is not paying my rent, so that didn't entirely work out,
right.
but like like you still people recognize you. Like I get like tagged in like glitch stuff on Twitter from people I've like never talked to.
Yeah,
So like some people out there know me for that now, and that feels like kind of cool.
I've
Um
I've had the last three commissioned people I commissioned for games be like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited, honored to be in this thing. I love this thing." I was like, "You don't follow me. How would I know you know this thing?" Uh,
yeah, that's always interesting.
so it's like I'm like realize, oh, it permeates enough, like that number is kind of like arbitrary in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
I would also hope that like things permeate outside of just like terminally online social media space,
Yes,
because like most people you meet in real life are like not heavy Twitter users
no,
or
no,
whatever other sites,
right. When
and they still learn about stuff, like you see a popular YouTuber on Twitter and like they've got like 1 million subs and like maybe like 1,000 followers on Twitter, and like it doesn't
yes,
always translate, but it doesn't mean people don't know their work.
I remember the first thing that made me think about that was like, what's his face? Like it was like Adam Conover was on Twitch and he had like 100 people watching him. I'm like, this guy is like a TV show.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God.
Like,
I, I I think that a lot about like Rara and Vectroid, how she like
yeah,
made Vaporwave. Not really,
uh,
but like,
right.
you know,
Was it
everyone knows that album.
was a
And then there's
killer?
like 30 people in her stream at
Yes,
most. And I'm
right,
like,
yeah.
why aren't like thousands of people here all the time?
Right, right. It's just you realize that like it's like like the cult of personality, like the active follower thing, is such a different thing. Like how many artists through history would like do good on Twitch or Twitter, you know, that are like revered artists, you know?
Yeah, it takes a very dedicated, different kind of person. I
Right,
mean, even the dedicated streamers have such small followings, but those small followings matter a lot. And
right.
like, I guess terminally online people like us become tastemakers.
Oh,
Uh,
how dare you? I will. I.
I
This
hate
is
the
this
term
this is
actually.
this is the after I after we end this call, I'm not going to be online all weekend. I've I've spent 2 years logging off
I
successfully.
need to log off more.
It's a
I'm
great
too
feeling.
broken. Yeah. I think that's what's been nice. We were like talking a little before about like retro consoles and
Yeah.
like because I mod hardware, like none of my consoles are plugged into the internet because none
Yeah.
of them well Xbox had Xbox Live. But like
Right.
I'm just playing like old games and there's no notifications, there's no pop-ups, there's no like anything and I just zone out. I like put my phone down and like I've been playing like the Metroid Prime trilogy, and
Yeah.
I can't use the internet while I play them because I like that game is too big. I have to remember like an entire world in my head, and it
Right.
makes me stop thinking about the internet, and it's really good.
Yes. There. I I am barely on like getting off of my phone while I watch things. You know, where it's like, oh yeah, I just throw my phone somewhere, and then I just don't think about it. I just watch a movie. You know.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I wish movie theaters were less expensive because um until recently, like when we could afford it a little bit, we
Yeah.
went to the movies like multiple times a week, and no one goes to the movies anymore. It's like, it's super nice, super quiet. Uh, People really dislike when you use your phone at the movies, so there's like
Yes.
social pressure not to use it. Um, and it's great. You come out of it refreshed. You're like, wow, that was amazing. And
Yeah.
then you watch
Right.
it at home, and you're like, oh, well, I got my phone here. This doesn't feel the same.
Yeah. It's. I yearn. The only one of the few things I yearn for from the past is those heady days of movie pass that made no sense.
Man, I never bought into it because I
It
was like,
was
that's a scam somehow. And no, it's just unsustainable and
right.
barely lasted.
It was a scam, but us customers were the scammers.
Yeah, I appreciate when businesses used to work like that.
Right. The rare time where disruptive tech only disrupted the company just doing the disruption
Right.
until they disrupted themselves into bankruptcy. But oh,
Yeah.
I could see so many movies. Like I could go to like weird art house cinemas, you know, and I could see,
Ah,
and I could get like I would I would see a weird art house movie on like a single screen cinema, and I would for my like $8 a month movie pass subscription.
we were like house sitting in a place south of us, that had a movie theater down the street from them. That was an art house like theater, and they only showed old movies, multiple nights a week. You just kind of walk in, whatever's playing, and I want more of that. I don't like. It doesn't matter if a movie is new. I just like I need a reason to go see it in a
Yeah,
dark room where I
right.
can't use my phone.
A thing a phrase I use a lot of times when sometimes people will be like referring to Indiepocalypse and things about like are all these new games? They go, well, they're all new to you, and new to you is functionally the same thing as new. You know?
Yeah. Oh my God, especially like as I like dive through retro games, it feels
Yeah,
like it never ends, especially like now that there's so many fan translations or just like Japanese games I never even heard of because like they just didn't permeate through like the game magazines I used to read.
right.
Um, it's
Or,
like a whole new world.
or things get like reevaluated culturally. Now suddenly people aren't thinking about Kingsfield again.
Yeah, right?
And it's like, yeah, Kingsfield whips, and FromSoft was always cool, but like they were like a stalwart of the 60 to 70% range, you know.
Yeah.
or
mostly known for its mind-boggling skeletons and not for
yes,
its gameplay until recently.
right. And now, oh, I got Dread. I'm thinking about Dread Delusions. Dread Delusions actually out now,
Ooh.
or like out of early access, I think. Games are weird. I'm like, I want to play a finished game. I want to play a game from front to back, uh, and not have to worry that like there's a patch that came out later that changed things. And I just want to play the game and not have to play it twice, but it had a cool look to it, and we used all the right words of things that I like.
I feel like the only games that I do that with, I end up playing like obsessively.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to use this to segue into talking about Street Uni X, which we had
Yes.
the intro in the pre-show because I just like got that game on itch because I found it on Twitter, and then like loved it so much I ended up like helping make the intro for that game.
Yes.
And I had like aspirations of like, oh man, I've been playing this in early access for like 2 years. I'm so good at it. I'm gonna speedrun it. And then like watching in the Discord, people like shave down their times down to like I think like 3 minutes now for like 100% playthrough, or at least of one character. And I'm like, never mind.
Right, right. And
But
people, he's like, oh, yeah, it turns out Tony Hawk sickos have been around for a very long time. And
yeah, I am a Tony Hawk sicko, but
yeah,
people are more sick than me.
yes, like you uncovered a rock and there's a bunch of people ollieing under it, and they're ready to like, wait, you can ollie on a different vehicle?
Oh my god. Speaking of that, there's like people like modding Tony Hawk games now.
Yeah,
That like the mod of American Wasteland. Waiting for the latest update felt like waiting for a new Tony Hawk game to come out. I was like so excited to replay a game I played on the PS2 in high school.
yeah. That's
Uh,
like the fan modding community just creates like its own like entirely new games and subgenres and like so much. Like I mean, there's really obvious famous ones like whatever like the Kaizo style has been its
oh
own
my god,
become its own
yes.
subgenre.
My favorite GDQ speedruns are Kaizo
Yeah,
games.
you know,
God.
because it's true beauties. I've been thinking about like I'm always craving like videos to watch about video games, but I have a very specific taste where I don't want to watch anything new. I don't want to watch content,
Mm.
and so like, and like I want to watch like kind of non-canonical stuff, if that makes sense. Uh,
Like video essays or like
not necessarily, but maybe. But like, I have a mixed relationship with video essays often. Uh,
likewise.
because
Sometimes I log into one and I'm like, this feels like a high school essay.
right, and
I already know where you're going with this.
there's whenever I hear video essay voice, um,
Yeah.
and it's like this doesn't seem to be 3 hours long, um, and it has the tendency to the subject being the most important thing ever made or whatever, or making a very important point perhaps, but also they often still skew towards very like modern, traditional canonical things, and I'm like, I want to learn about weird stuff. I want to,
Yeah.
which like you get with speedrun sometimes, like someone talking extremely in depth about like uh, headphone jack or whatever.
Headphone jack?
Headphone and jack. What's the name of that game?
Oh, I don't Jack and Daxter.
No. It's like headphone. It's a true nightmare of a game. Mohawk and headphone jack is what
Oh,
it's like.
interesting.
It's like it's like a mode seven like vomit, basically.
I've never heard of a game called a 2D rotational game on Wikipedia. That's new.
Yeah. So like it's all about like gravity and like rotational spaces and running around and jumping on different things. But it looks visually it's a true nightmare. It's like like I think of it as Euro style. It may not be, but like the Euro style platformers that are like big open spaces where you collect a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
things. It's like one of
Oh,
those, but it's
yeah.
constantly rotating.
Oh, it's like a weird motion sick Sonic the Hedgehog situation. I
Yes,
can see
yes.
this being an incredible speed game that is very
Oh,
hard to keep up with.
yes, I have watched it. It's a true disaster. Uh, but that's also like when you want to hear someone talk a lot about something like that. It's like that's what I want to hear about. I want to hear about like what is the niche or like the alternative stuff in games.
Yes. I'm a big fan of that. I watch a lot of speedrun history videos or like tech breakdown videos
Yeah,
on like weird games like that.
right. Because that's what I like. That's what I'm most drawn to in like other mediums. Is like
Yeah,
the kind of like alternative space.
I think I realized after so many like Metal Gear video essays that there's only so much I can like hear people like pull from those games and that I can trust that no, I actually understand it. I've played it like 10 times.
Right.
Uh there's no like deeper take that anyone is going to show me that I don't already kind of know. So I've like started really seeking out like different stuff. I still love a good like 2 hour Metroid video essay,
Yeah,
but after a while I'm just like none of this is new to me. This is just comfort.
right. It is it's exactly is the I have no one to talk about this with, so I'm going to talk to the internet with it,
Yeah.
or rather, the internet's going to talk to me about it.
Yeah, well I do other things anyway.
Yeah, kind of as I that's as an excuse to like it's just sometimes where I'll turn on like um, Criterion's very good for having their like little supplemental like I want to hear a video essay about this after I watch it. Uh,
Ooh, they have that on there? This is the first time I've actually been interested in a streaming service.
I'm pretty sure they do have a lot of that stuff on the channel too. Like they'll have like
Oh, cool,
their
cool.
supplementary feature. I that's like the only that is the only streaming service I subscribe to because it's like front to back bangers, you know.
Yeah, that sounds great, actually.
Like if you're into like a very and I don't even want to say into like a very specific type of movie because they have like the I talk about this channel on this show. Right? I mean they put on like a Heisei they have Heisei Godzilla on there right now, which is not high cinema, you know.
I
Uh,
mean, Godzilla is tall and high.
yes, that guy in that suit's probably at least 6 feet.
Yeah, at least.
But like the channel's been very good about like having trash on there, you know. We
But
talked about
it's like interesting trash,
yes,
artistic trash. I mean,
yeah,
like I that's my entire like medium is like I literally what rooted in a group called Racer Trash. It's just
yes, right. The last movie I watched on that with friends, we watched Ricky O, which
never heard of it.
the Ricky O, the story of Ricky. It's like a trashy martial arts movie, like
Oh,
gore,
yes.
like a trashy gore martial arts movie. If you've ever watched any, I think the lineage comes from Team Spooky, but like a lot of fighting game or Evo streams that end with a guy punching into a wall and saying that everyone's free now. That's Ricky O, the story of Ricky.
Oh, this makes a lot of sense.
Yes, that clip has been around for a long time, but it's like not there's a local crew in like the Boston area that hosts a thing called Trash Nights. And they, you know, thanks. One of the things we go thanks COVID. They started doing it on Twitch. That's the one tiny upside of it all is people go, oh, you can do more stuff on the internet. It's like no,
Yeah.
you can always do more stuff on the internet.
Um, One of the video art circles I'm in, Cinema 720, does a movie every Monday. It used
Yes,
to be called Monday Movie Madness. And like they show video art, but then they just show a movie.
right, and like on Twitch, like publicly accessible, I assume, or
Yes.
in a way, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Because if you don't archive it, you don't get in trouble.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you're not monetizing your channel, you don't have to worry about like ad breaks.
Right. That's me on this. Like I play whatever music I want on the show because I don't archive it, so I never get in trouble.
Yeah, and it's like you're not like pulling in thousands of concurrent viewers or
Right.
like going for subs anyway. It's just
No,
like
no. I
it's funny how many creators complain about like copyright, which is like a problem, but then
yes.
you realize that you're like listening to a bubble of people who like actually make their income at a scale that is like well beyond most people, and
Yeah.
that most people can just broadcast whatever um, and
Yeah.
not archive it.
Right. Right. Exactly. And you can like just kind of do whatever you want, and like it's not like I mean, listen, copyright strikes, get them out of the internet. I would rather not have them, but
Yeah,
like you said, for most people, it's not actually a real problem in any meaningful way. You know, you have to get those 500 YouTube subscribers. I've made uh, $50. I've had one payout from Twitch so far in my 156 weeks of doing this.
that's pretty huge, I'd say. I
Yeah,
like knowing like oh man, I used to run a gaming blog and no, we never had ads. Never mind.
yeah, right.
We had some sort of income through Blogger. I don't remember how. Maybe we ran Google Ads way back when. And it never hit the payout amount. Like I
Yeah,
don't even think we ever made $1.
right, right. I I have like, and that's part of that independent art space. And you eat shit for a very long time. I've not made a single dollar doing what I do so far in like the 4.5 years of doing it.
Yeah, it's not about monetizing your content.
Right,
God, I hate that term.
right.
But
It's
like it's about putting yourself in places where you can get paid work.
right, right. It's about increasing the space of like hopefully like you know I think about this a lot. I've mentioned it in the past during other like the career games bundle just ended I think today or yesterday or something.
Oh, I missed it.
And they said, oh, we raised this much, and this is, and it was like, yeah, 80 something, I think, thousand.
Wow, that's still pretty great.
Which, but then they also, which amounts to $342 for each developer who took payments. And I'm like,
Wow.
right. I'm like, that's still like, if someone gave me $342, hey, I would kick out of bed. I'd gladly take it.
Yeah, that's pretty solid, but that's also not a lot.
That's like half a week on minimum wage. Granted, I live in Massachusetts where we have high minimum wage, but and
That is maybe one video art commission for me
right,
if I am like cutting someone a huge deal.
right, and like that money travels obviously very differently around the different parts of the world, but
Yeah, that's true.
it's also still like not a lot of money,
Yeah.
and I always worry about things like that where people are like, yeah, we rallied around the one thing, and then they forget about all those people for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I the thing I have with bundles sometimes is that like yeah, it leads to discoverability. Like I know I follow a lot of people because of like old Humble bundles.
Yes,
Um but at the same time there's just like a bunch of stuff in my itch that I've like never considered playing because I bought a bundle and it was like huge.
right.
Um
The itch bundles are a whole other thing where they're always like 10,000, it's 3,000 games, which, like, you know, don't do the math on those. But yeah, that exacerbates the Humble Bundle problem where you say, oh, I got 6 games, I'll play 2 of them.
I think my Steam library is very close to 1,000 because of those old Humble bundles,
Right. And then,
and I haven't played most of those games.
right, right. And then, you know, create that problem, 3x that problem, and then
Yeah,
make it also a situation where it's from developers that are never getting talked about online. You know,
yeah,
like someone will eventually talk about like uh, Meat Boy or whatever, and you're like, I guess I'll play Meat Boy because it was on that bundle, or what's whatever a lower tier version of one of those games are, Trine
yeah.
or something.
Some indie game that wasn't in a movie. God, I
Right.
bought Meat Boy on launch day, and I also bought the physical version of it at Walmart because I thought that was the craziest thing at the time was an indie game getting like a physical copy in stores.
Yeah, let me tell I'll tell to my copy of Alien Hominid on the PlayStation 2.
Oh my
That was like,
god, yeah. No, when it was like, wow, a flash game on a console.
my God, yeah, it was a whole exciting new venue, but like also Newground's still kicking along, which is very cool. I hear very good things about Newground still. Um,
Hmm.
like it's a very different like Newgrounds for games especially it's very different than Itch. It's a very different audience. Like I think people more actively play things on Newgrounds. Like it feels
That
like
makes sense. Like once a game or once a site becomes less popular,
yeah.
the people who stick around are really, really dedicated.
Yeah,
Um,
and like actively engaging with things. Also, all this stuff is playable in browser, um, which changes a lot of stuff. But also actively engaging with things is part of it's the DNA of Newgrounds.
yeah, that is really cool. God, I used to watch like Ego Raptor on Newgrounds when I was in like middle school. God,
Right.
I feel so old.
Yeah. Right. Yes. There is. Like, oh, I'm so old. I'm in my 30s.
Yeah, right. I'm not actually that old. I'm relatively young, but
Yes.
still, like it's like I guess sometimes it hits me that I've just been around a while,
Right.
and
Right.
I just like there are literal adults who like don't remember the stuff that was like core to my youth, and that's still crazy to me.
Yes. There's a major American event that people are like can like rent cars and drink, and they were not alive for it. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like people born after the Matrix came out. Come on.
I know. It's like they don't even understand why when things move slow nowadays.
Yeah, right. They're like, oh, bullet time. We take that for granted. Oh,
Right.
Zack Snyder? No.
Right. There's not like a small part of their brain that like might accidentally misidentify Wachowskis. The Wachowskis have only ever been one thing to them.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's actually kind of a blessing.
Yes, it
Kind of
is.
cool.
Like it's it's the thing where it's like people are just born and then they never. I think a lot of those kind of like right like being alive for so long people just come in they don't have their full lived experience and how much stuff is like how many things change so quickly, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting too because like a lot of the like indie developers and like internet people I looked up to when I was like just entering the workforce,
Yeah.
were like what maybe like 5, 10 years older than me, and I remember them talking about like '80s stuff. Like, whoa, oh, that's so cool. You grew up with this,
Right.
and now I'm just like, oh no, the people feel that way about like the PlayStation.
Yes. Right.
People feel that way about the PS2. Not even like
Right. You're right. We're in the full PlayStation nostalgia boom, uh, which is its own little thing. I think a lot about the PlayStation nostalgia boom and like why is it all horror, um, but or
yeah, that's interesting.
mostly horror. I mean, we talked about Unity Street X, which is not a horror game, obviously. It is
I'm actually very happy to see No Clip talked about the game on their podcast recently, and they were like talking about how lots of retro throwback games are just like very like either cynical or like play it as a joke, but like Street Unity X is actually
yeah,
very sincere, and that's very rare. Like unless it's a horror game, and which there are a lot of, and they kind of tend to become very cynical for it.
right. Or become like you start to see the formula of them a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
uh, Twitch bait,
yeah, I
not to reduce the entire genre.
right. No, I'm a long-standing horror fan, horror game fan, but a lot of it's still like trashy, and not like in a fun way.
Yeah, I feel like that comes with the territory, right? You're
Right,
always like sifting through the piles of rubbish.
right, and that's the same thing. Like horror film is the same way of like, oh, this is extremely boilerplate by the numbers because horror traditionally does numbers.
Oh yeah.
horror is a very traditionally safer media or genre because it's cheap. You can make a lot for how cheap it is to produce.
I remember in high school always being like, "Ah, that horror movie's PG-13, and oh, that one's it's no substance. It's just here to make money." And
Right.
most of the time, we were right.
Yeah, that's and then you have it's then you have to dig through like the gunk of it all and find like oh what were the interesting ones that get missed through and it's the other thing I think about. I've also been told Newgrounds has a very different like vibe to their front page,
Oh, interesting.
where like like it's a much more like it's just a very cool site, but their front page is extremely very traditional. Uh, it's usually just like very straight down the line video games,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, Newgrounds has always been more like animation and like not always just games.
right, which kind of lends itself to more like uh, abstract experiences, perhaps.
I am for that. You're making me a Newgrounds convert.
I mean, give it a shot if you got some free time. Also, like, there's a lot of stuff on here. Like, there's fun stuff. Zelda Link getting up to antics, classic Newground stuff.
Ah, yes.
But like, there's a lot of room for all sorts of like their featured. It's interesting. Like their featured games are not the same as like itch's featured games. Just like looking at them both next to each other. And
I'm
like I
doing the
wonder
same
like
thing.
how stylistically different they are, and like how much of like the Flash ethos maybe is still borrowed in there.
I think the reason I like fell off of Newgrounds is I just kind of assumed that like everything broke once Flash stopped being supported, but I'm
Right.
like, wait, no, people just do Flash style things on here.
Yes. And I also think they just like built an entire like Flash plug-in thing or something, basically, to
That's
save
incredible.
to
Like
save
a
them.
little sandboxed emulator.
Yeah, something like that. To bring back their basically to preserve their entire library.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I used to. I sorry. I've been like very nostalgia core today. I used to embed Newgrounds games on my MySpace page,
Right.
and people would compliment me for curating, like, because
Yeah.
people just hang out on my profile and play like whatever bike game was out at the time or whatever.
Yeah. I think a lot about the idea of like nostalgia core or like because I feel like on this show we often find ourselves talking about the past, uh, but it's not really like things. And because the internet was a very different thing 10 years ago, 20 years ago, like there wasn't that same condensing into like three sites.
Yeah, you could also run into a lot weirder stuff accidentally.
Right. There were less clearly like algorithms to play. Um, and it wasn't like, oh, if you want to get your workout, make sure you go to like, make sure you have a TikTok presence, make sure you're on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, all of them. Uh, Make sure you're
If
ready.
if anything, it was like Newgrounds, what like E-Bombs Worlds, and
Right,
like some of those other sites where it's like if your Flash game got curated onto one of those like hubs, then everyone was suddenly playing it.
right.
Um, like I never realized until like much later on that E-Bombs World was just like a big curation site. It
Right,
wasn't like a collective or anything because I didn't think about that. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go where the cool games are.
right.
Um,
And I, culturally, I'm like, oh, E-Bomb's the world, the place that steals all the stuff from Newgrounds.
exactly right. Yeah, because now
Right.
I'm like, oh,
Like
that's where it all came from.
I was plugged in that I must have been plugged in that right amount of that right pocket of culture that like E-Bomb's world was bad in my mind growing up. Like I was like
Yeah,
E-Bomb's world is bad because that's where like they're the site that basically just steals and hosts everyone else's stuff, which I don't know exactly what they were doing. Probably like some kind of aggregator thing.
Yeah, I mean, what they were probably just like embedding games
Right.
into their like the same thing I was doing on MySpace, except they were like making ad revenue off of it.
Yeah, yeah. And everyone knew who they were.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
because like like kids at school will be like, "Well, this is where all the cool websites are." Like, God,
right.
Funny Junk. I
Yes.
remember when Funny Junk like rebranded around like the early Reddit era, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's so cringe, Funny Junk," and it became like, I mean, Imager was all. Imager isn't even a thing anymore, is it? I don't know. Like, Funny Junk became an image host after a
Right.
while, and it was like, that was the site I used to watch funny, like, cat flash animations and peanut butter jelly plants and stuff. And it's all just stolen content from elsewhere. But
Right.
anyway,
But
that, like,
it's another problem where they just turn to the same website of everything just turning to the same website.
yeah. And, like, we don't remember who made all of those, like, funny animations, at least unless we, like, get curious and look it up.
Right.
So, like, yeah, getting your animation or game stolen or featured on one of those big sites was like, it's this, I guess it's kind of the bundle thing where like, like a small percentage of people actually dig further, but most people get exposed, and then it does become like part of like cultural knowledge, but then people go, "Oh, what was that thing I saw?"
Right.
And
Right. Who
the
actually made that?
creator never actually gets supported.
Right. They don't get any. Right. They don't get any money or attention or like. Oh yeah, I. It's the guy. It's all. I mean that. I was gonna say it's like that, but that's a different problem. Other things like the adults. I'm blanking on the name of the guy, the Adult Swim guy,
The guy who did like
the Brian
Brack.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
Now
just
he's
like
like an Amazon delivery guy. Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's rough to see.
and now he's
I, I I feel a little better knowing that like most of the people I look up to are in financially similar situations to me, but that
right.
also feels very dire and bad.
Yes. Right. You were just talking earlier. Like, I gotta get a job again. Not I'm just sitting on my yacht all day relaxing.
Yeah, no, okay, like to give a number in like a year or two of freelancing, I made like maybe 6K.
Right.
And I was talking to like a YouTube friend who like I was watching their stuff well before we started chatting, and she was like, "Yeah, 6K is incredibly good for your first year of freelance." And I'm like, "That didn't pay my rent.
Right.
I had to like have a partner with a real job and like savings."
Yes.
Uh,
The secret executive producer on most indie projects, the partner with the real job.
yeah, it's funny. I went from being the partner with the real job to being the like artist. It feels like a very like interesting role reversal in my life.
Right. A good healthy relationship is that you trade off on that job.
Yeah, yeah. Now I'm going back to the job world. Well, I'm trying. It's really hard. It's like a whole identity crisis thing because now I'm like, I haven't touched my resume in 3 years, and I have to
Yeah.
like explain to people it's not a resume gap if you were freelancing because you were
Right.
technically just working from the second you were laid off from your last job.
Exactly. You're just doing a different job. That's your own company, or I.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
I hate calling it that.
right. No, my my current job, my independent work did not get me in my job, and my work my previous job got me, and now I'm ideally pretty comfortable for theoretically the rest of my life.
It's
Uh,
really funny how, like, when I was a web developer, the thing that got me a job at a big tech company wasn't my like resume or experience. Like, that got me in the door.
right.
The thing that got me hired was that, like, during the interview, I pulled up like a furry website that I helped make, and I explained adoptables to this guy, and he's like, "They make money doing that? That's incredible." And I was like, "Yeah, there's like a lot of like database stuff going on here." And he's like, "Oh, cool. All right, yeah, you can learn Python. That's fine."
Right. Right. Yeah. You never know. Like, I in between looking for the job before I was like, oh, let me try some video game work or whatever. And turns out 3.5 years of like regularly producing a video game project on time with collaborators doesn't actually qualify you for a game production role. Uh,
That's unfortunate,
yeah,
honestly, because like indie wrangling is generally, I think, more chaotic sometimes. Uh,
it's a
like
very
I, having seen the AAA side of it, it's there's like a whole corporate culture thing
yeah,
going on there.
and I think that's part of the same thing. I've come to the realization that like uh, something that was very important to me in the indie game space is realizing that like when people talk about indie games, they're like probably 95% of the time at the very minimum talking about like the budget like entrepreneur class of indie games, not like
Yeah,
a bedroom dev just making a game.
yeah. I feel like bedroom dev making it big is such a pipe dream. Like
Right.
even, I mean, even like 10 years ago, like oh God, so it's funny looking back on it now because I've rewatched it a lot of times. But Indie Game the movie, like when I was in college, like gave me an existential crisis of like, oh, what am I doing? Look at these people; they can make art. Oh my God! And
Right.
now I look back at it and I'm like, oh, they got like a publisher deal. Oh, they had like all this other stuff. Like they were very lucky, but
Yes. Oh yeah.
that was still such a small part of that world.
Microsoft, there's this company called Microsoft. I think they publish video games or something. But
Something like that.
I think they spent a lot of advertising effort promoting something like a game like Super Meat Boy that might have given it a bit of a help. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, God, I was huge into that game before it came out. I think it was like Destructoid covered it,
yeah.
and I was all over that. I don't know. It's different times. All that
Yeah.
stuff is still around, but different times.
Right. Right. And I think people it's easy in like the hustle grind. Here are my marketing tip emoji thread nonsense. I think people miss like that misses like all of the other factors that basically make all these things succeed, which is usually a lot of money and knowing people.
Yeah, it's really knowing. Well, yeah, the money thing too, because then you have time.
Right, or you can hire people to make up for that time.
Yeah, yeah. And now people just try to use AI instead of hiring people, but also people can't afford artists, so it's bad. It's bad. I
Yes,
don't like
yeah.
it.
No,
It's
it's
like the tools are more accessible than ever, but the ability to actually make a living off of those tools is like increasingly harder and harder.
yeah, yeah. It's why I think local outfits like local scenes and everything, smaller groups are like the most essential part of like any art form because making a living is like off of independent art is kind of like precarious at best,
Yeah,
but like making supplemental income uh, is much more achievable. I mean, like,
I'm much healthier.
yeah,
I think like after having done the like full-time tech industry work, burning myself to the ground and like literally being like unable to do the job that was like earning my income. Now I'm like, if I re-enter the workforce, I'm gonna do this like contract part-time. I'm gonna try to like have actual boundaries with it and
yeah,
still make stuff because I want to make stuff. I think I'm tired of like trying to make money off of my art. I'd be happy to like part time that if it means I could actually make really interesting things and
right.
also not worry about rent.
Yeah, no, I've the time in my life where I was like, oh, maybe I could do this if I get the right attention, if I skate on these pressing topics and get enough people's attention to me, I can make money off of this thing. That's highly impractical. I think
Yeah.
maybe eventually I will be profitable, maybe, uh,
I
but
think I had to tell myself that story to like take the leap and start doing this stuff
yeah,
because I think there's like we're trained to view things in like a very like capitalist career mindset. And we're like, well, the thing you do is your identity and is your job.
yeah,
But it's like, oh, I could just like I used to work retail jobs and still made art when I was doing that, and that didn't make me like my identity a retail employee. But when you like do office work, suddenly it's like I'm a programmer. That's my life now. And
Right. No, the first few years of Indiepocalypse was funded by retail, uh,
yeah, exactly.
and like I was not a retail worker. In my current job now, I don't identify with it. I identify with the money it gives me.
Yeah, like the best thing you can do is have a job that like sort of gives you free training for the skills that you want to do on the side.
Right. And the second best job is a job that has nothing to do with what you want to do on the side.
Oh, exactly, because then you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. It's I think a lot about the autobio comic, Alec the Years Have Pants by Eddie Campbell. He talks about he worked in like a sheet metal factory or whatever, like he was pounding sheet metal, and
Interesting.
his boss was like, "Well, why do you do this?" And he's like, "Ah, because I don't have to think about it. I can just
Yeah.
I, I can
Uh,
I can
I used
like
to do warehouse work, and
right
it was like repackaging stuff. Just like literally, we would like take giant bags of like toilet paper and then put them into bigger boxes with different case counts, and then sell those to like Costco.
right
Uh, and I would just listen to like indie game podcasts and like dream about art and writing articles and stuff. Uh,
right
and like it was depressing, grueling work, but also like I just turned my brain off. I just got to listen to podcasts 8 hours a day.
yeah
Uh,
exactly. You can sit around and like do stuff on your phone. You can just hang out, and then you know what happened when 5 o'clock rolls around and that whistle blows. You're out the door.
don't have to think about it. You make money. Man, I miss money. That's really it. I want to
You're
buy things again.
there's not a Slack you have to be on.
Yeah. Oh God. I I've been doing remote work. I think longer than a lot of people because most
Yeah.
people started that in 2020. But like I started that in like what 2015, 2016. Um, and like immediately installed Slack on my phone and then like would get messages when I started because I was in a different time zone than my company.
Right.
Uh, and it was terrible for me, I think, because then waking up, it was like, it wasn't the coffee, it was the anxiety of seeing all the Slack notifications on my screen as I woke up.
Right. It's I can't imagine doing it. I can't imagine having. I've always been very straightforward about like at in my prior job. Someone like, oh yeah, give me your phone number so we can contact you to organize when we're going to show up. I'm like, this was working retail. I'm like, no, if I'm not,
No.
you can call the store. If I'm not, if you need to call my phone, I'm not at work and I'm not getting paid. I don't want to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So I yeah.
I was never good at shift work because
Yes.
people would just call you on the weekend and like you just be like, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm drunk, and you'd have to lie about that because otherwise you have no excuse.
Oh no.
You're like, I can't drive.
My excuse is I'm not coming to work. It's my day off.
Yeah.
Nice
Yeah,
try.
now I have boundaries.
Yeah, yeah, yes. The establishment of work-life boundaries are very helpful. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, it's a blessing of a thing. Also, working for a local business is nice.
Oh, that's gotta be pretty cool.
Yeah, you don't have the crushing of like people like your boss being have they're under the thumb of some corporate person who might be under the thumb of somebody else, and then the thumbs are just pressing down forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, no, my boss lives 20 minutes from work. The person who owns the company is your boss.
There's actually like you feel the care and investment.
Right. You see, like, oh, there's a person. There's a person. I'm not dealing with the abstracted boss of a boss of a boss or whatever.
Yeah. That was part of like what was kind of wild in tech was like you can't make change because the guy above you can't make change.
Right.
But you've convinced him, but then he goes, "No, my hands are tied," and then
Right.
you're like, "Well, then what do I do?"
You have to convince some guy who maybe goes to work, maybe, definitely
Yeah.
makes a lot of money. Uh, but that's all tech nonsense. I'm sure people within games know a lot about tech nonsense, but
Oh
so
yeah.
we are cresting it to an hour if you would believe it. Um, it flies by so quickly, and we barely
It
get
really
to talk.
does.
We barely. I think last week we had 4 guests, but that was pushing 3. I think that was
Wow.
that was a very long one. Um, but they because I like talking to people. This is my I hate social media, so my version of that is finding cool people who I'd like to talk with on social media, inviting them onto a show, to talk with them here.
Honestly, this is a lot better. I think I've been social media has definitely been damaging my mental health
Right, right.
lately. I've been very aware of it.
And people say a lot of things on social media in a way that like they would never say like in person. Like I see a lot of like sometimes I see a statement like that's an extremely social media statement.
Yeah.
Like they're very loaded. Like you're always looking to make a point, or you have like some weird like posturing or like what's the word when you're like putting on a face of something? Like I can't think of the word I'm looking for.
Uh,
But like
Not grandstanding or
no, no,
something like
no.
that.
It's like it's the word for I lost it. I lost it. What's the word for virtue signaling that's not quite so annoying?
I was so what's the woke version of this?
There's
Um,
there's a word
uh,
for it that's not so annoying. I don't know if you ever heard
Not.
this.
Oh god, it's the inverse of straw manning, right?
Right.
I so one of the I get what you're
Right.
talking about
Right.
though.
Right. Like you're clearly saying something because you want to be seen saying that thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's my like struggle with social media is I just those things feel obvious to me and I know they're not
Yes.
obvious to everyone, but I'm just like I don't need to say that. I just want to post like a funny picture or like art.
Yeah. Right. It is the equivalent of someone straight faced going, "Oh man, I started trying a breakfast today, and it was really good, but I noticed like waffles don't have enough steak on them or something." And it's like, well, of course they don't. It's like, sure, that's an issue if you take issue with that, but
Yeah.
it's a different thing. Like it feels very unrelated to like the topic at hand. That's ignoring the classic "why do you hate waffles" the social media interpretation likes.
Yeah, why do you hate pancakes? You didn't talk about pancakes. It's like, no, I just like waffles.
Right.
Uh
Yes. The
yeah.
the dealing with everyone's main character brain that they have.
I think what I've just tried to do is like I've been opening up a bit by just going, well, I'll just tweet about my weird hyperfocuses because
Right. Right.
everyone I follow also has weird hyperfocuses. Like I just like hack old game consoles and think about Metroid too much. And people, there are other people who do that.
Yes.
Um,
Right. And
but
then
like
like
I need to talk to people more. I need to go on Discord servers more. I used to be a voice chat nerd of just like I would just scroll Twitter with other people in
right.
Discord calls all day. But at
I
least I had other people.
yeah I am even worse where I'm like oh discords are all pre-established and it's like inviting yourself to a friend group so I just don't even join discords.
I mean that's really it. Is I only hang out in the ones that are like weird, like they're like very large social circles. Like I hang
Yes.
out in one that's like maybe like 100 people, but only like five of those people ever hop into voice chat.
Yeah.
Um, and then like I don't know, video art servers. Some of them get too big. I used to be in one when it was like just starting out, and I was like, "This is great. There's like 4 people every week. We hang out all the time." And then it became like 12 people, and I stopped recognizing the names in the call, and I'm like, that gives me anxiety. I'm good.
Right. I will instead just go to this and then go to local events,
Yeah,
or non-local events. Once I realized that I could actually like break even traveling to events, I, I can like go to events now. It's a weird
yeah.
thing because
Uh, we make GDC happen. We made the GDC happen the last 2 years by like carpooling and staying at people's places and
yeah,
all that. My partner got a hotel last year, which was incredible because we actually got to be like close to it. But
yeah.
we didn't buy badges. You just go hang out at the
Uh,
gardens.
my
You
one
just drive
luxury,
down.
my one luxury in travel is a hotel room. I
Yeah,
will
no, that's really it.
I will take the worst possible flights in the world, but I want to sleep in a hotel room.
Yeah, I also want to be close to where the thing is
That too.
happening.
Ideally, I want to be able to walk there.
One of the great things about living in Seattle is that PAX is now in my backyard.
Yes,
So last year we just drove down and hung out outside.
I can drive to Boston, uh, so
Ooh.
I've got a PAX of my own.
God, 10 years ago, I almost moved to Boston because I was like, PAX happens there every year. I love going to Boston. Video game companies must be all over the place over there. And then I realized, like, oh no,
They're not
that's like
really.
rare.
Right, there are more studios than you think that are in there. Also, Boston, very expensive city. Like I said, I
Yeah,
drive. I drive like an hour to get there. Uh, Living somewhere much cheaper than Boston, in the already expensive Massachusetts. Uh, but that's its own thing. But yeah, it's a fun thing to do. I got a briefcase the other day, cassette
whoa.
cases,
Oh,
because
I saw that picture. I
because
have one of those.
yeah, friend of the thing of the ship of the site of the show of the zine of everything. Ash K is also on that game tape lifestyle up in Canada, and
That's awesome.
and they had got a briefcase and it's such a good cool thing. So
Yeah, I love cassette tape briefcases because they're all like perfectly spaced out and like they got
yes,
the little slots for them.
they're beautiful things. And it's like I can just bring that to me to like any kind of like local meetup, and I can just like here's video games, you know.
Yeah, anything that's not like a website. Because, like, QR codes are great because people go, oh, cool, I'll follow you on Twitter and then forget about you. But,
Yeah,
like, you have a briefcase, they have to look through every cover and all the art, and they might be like, oh, that resonates with me. They would never scroll that far on a web
yeah,
page.
and that's one of the big reasons I've been like physically producing games, like both Indiepocalypse and like publishing basically any indie dev who wants me to, um, because I think it occupies a different space in people's brain, like a
Yeah.
visual thing. Like I got a couple of, I did a tape swap at Staple in Austin, and while I haven't opened them yet, they are sitting on a table in this room, so I do think about them more than I think about any game in my Steam library, you know?
Yeah. Oh, man, I used to borrow video games from people.
Right.
And like I would always like put it on my desk and be like, well, this is my reminder to play it because I don't want to like put it on a shelf and
Yeah.
like think it's just mine. And it was like just having a physical reminder that a game exists and that I should play it is important because
Yeah.
otherwise I have like four black boxes under my TV that all have like 100 games each at least. And I'm like, oh yeah, that game I really adore. I just forgot existed because I don't
Right.
have a poster of it or something.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. Like Criterion's 24/7 channel is a cool thing that they have.
Ah, yes.
Like the increase of 20. I've started thinking about TV is cool actually. Um,
Oh yeah. No, I've talked with a couple people who really want to bring that back on Twitch in a
yeah.
certain way.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked to the same people, but
Yeah,
uh,
Max Krieger is one of them. I think it's thinking a lot about this sort of like with the Aqua Lounge and things around
yes. Oh my
that
God.
space.
I need to make more work that's not just like movie remixes because I want to put stuff on Aqualange really
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. I've thought like before like so we should just make we should just reinvent TV channels like kind of like memes.tv or whatever did.
Oh yeah, Means TV's cool. Not a lot of people know about it.
Yeah,
Uh, I only learned about it like a year or two ago.
but I think it's also largely paywalled, which is the thing that I mean
It's
TV is
paywall, but it
TV.
also, if you just ask them, like, hey, I can't afford this, they'll like give you a login.
Right, right, and it's that same kind of like weird barrier of like accessibility. Because I mean, TV is technically paywalled, you know, but growing up, like I was a kid. We were all kids who like everyone was a kid who didn't pay for TV, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, you just watched whatever was on. Um, I used to be such a library gremlin, and it's
Yeah,
funny because I live with a librarian, and yet I don't have a library card, so I'm kind of like a hypocrite for this, but like I like miss that.
yeah,
Because I used to just read game magazines all the time, and like that
yeah.
was how I like learned about most of what I like still like to this day.
Your local library. Okay, I got a library PSA for people. There's a good
Mhm.
chance that your library is part of a library network, and then you can order books from any library in that network to be delivered to your library. And
Mm-hmm.
and in a lot of cases, if you want, and there's one of the libraries I went to because I visited two because there are two different networks. That's how you get weird, uh, mostly just like weird out of print comics. Uh,
Oh, interesting. I used to read a lot of manga at the library.
yes, that's how. I mean, it's being re-released now, but like that's how I was like, that's how I read like shortcuts, and other like super expensive stuff at the time. If I was gonna get it, like because it was out of print, but like, no, the library networks just have it.
And they'll just pass it to your library. Yeah.
Right. I would get like this huge like. I was like, I want to read that Thor that everyone likes. I can get you mean that $100 Walt Simonson Thor? I can just like the library will just give me that for free.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I used to read so many like trade paperbacks
Yeah.
and comics and stuff.
And yeah, so and a lot in some cases you don't even have to like interact with a person. Like
Yeah. Oh, not at all. Just the person. Well, I don't know if it's changed now, but just like the person that you're checking out with is probably the only person you actually have to talk to. Otherwise, it's kind of meant to be a quiet place.
in my case, it was even one of the libraries I went to. I would go to a shelf that had a bunch of rubber banded books with my name on it. I brought it to a kiosk and I left.
Oh, you just like what? Like get them online now, and then just
Yeah,
Uh, ah.
I
I feel
ordered.
like that's the discoverability of walking through a library is like
Yes,
part of it.
that is definitely part of it. But like if you, I'm also like a very I'm looking for like the weird obscure stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you're already on the hunt. You know, you've
right,
done the curation.
right. So I'm using the libraries to find that stuff, but also yeah, just like there is so much space to be like just like looking for like anything that's like a finite space. I would recommend checking out more of.
Yeah, we have a really cool place locally called Scarecrow Video. It's like one of the biggest like video stores I think in the country. And like going there and just going through their VHS shelves, like
Right.
I'll learn about so much stuff. I have a music video I made like 2 years ago that I like never finished, even though it's basically done. That I just like went there and I rented like it was like a PBS documentary on like animal sex, and I just like glitched out all of that footage and chopped it up and edited it together. Um, and I never would have like hunted down that footage. It's on archive.org. It was easy to
Right.
find,
Right.
but I wouldn't have looked that up.
There's so much stuff on archive.org. You know, I think a lot about if something exists on archive.org but nobody's talking about it, is it still archived? Or
Yeah,
is it still preserved? Like
yeah,
so much of preservation is conversation.
it really is. Because otherwise, like, people won't back it up. I think like the fact that archive has like torrents is really important. Like,
Yeah.
in my scene, every time someone uploads a movie that we've worked on, I make sure to like seed it so that like at least I always have a local copy, and then like if archive servers are struggling, people can still access
Yeah.
like our art. Um, my God, so much knowledge would not exist without weirdos on YouTube doing like lost media air quotes deep dives.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not lost, but no one's talking about it, so it's kind of lost.
Right. Right. It's a thing I think about constantly of how much of it's important to just like talk about things more than just like them purely existing. And a lot of these things, like you mentioned, like Scarecrow Video, I'm looking at they have tons of like spotlight selections. They have this little scrolling thing
Yes.
on the bottom of their website of like they're not just putting it all up. They're not just like an empty like a repository or whatever of movies. They're like actively trying to get people to watch all these Roger Corman movies or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Every time I go there, there's always like different movies on display. Um, I usually just pop in to look for like used VHS because then I can get fun stuff.
Right.
Um, but like, yeah, if you go in there, they really try to curate it. Um, just walking through the shelves, they're really smart about their like genre separations. Like I've never seen so many video game related tapes in one place, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, I keep looking. I'm gonna close their website. It's a very cool website.
It's yeah,
There's a lot of cool stuff on it, but it's just so much of like curation. Very important. I feel like that's very obvious. Uh, maybe uh, for me to
I
say,
think it is very yeah. I mean,
but
it's obvious for us. I
yes,
think also like video game publishers have become curators in a lot of ways, at least in the indie space.
yeah,
Because like publishers now look for a certain type of game, and then like players tend to go, "Oh, that's the like boomer
yeah.
shooter dev," or like that's the place where I can get all my horror games.
I,
Um,
I am a little more cynically thinking that they're more positioning themselves as developers in their curation efforts.
I think so. There's definitely like a cynical part of it, but it's interesting that publishers have become kind of like yeah, curators.
Right,
I
and they're all
don't have another word for it.
right, and developing their own house styles,
Yeah,
which kind of as they churn through all their single game indie game studios.
yeah. Oh, I overheard I think it was the CEO of a very well-known indie publisher at a PAX coffee shop talking about how like that was exactly his strategy. Is like, yeah, we're gonna just buy up a bunch of small indies, and then like one of them will be a big takeoff success, and that's cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean
he-
that's it's a lot
ugh.
of like what you see. You're like, ah, all these games published by Annapurna by a studio. What other games does the studio make? Oh, they're all single game studios
Mhm.
because it takes you like forever to make a game, and the notion of what makes a game. You know, the people making the art get screwed, and it'll be increasingly. It's not a unique thing to games.
Yeah, I think it's interesting coming from my like tech background because I used to be in like startups and VCs,
Yeah,
and like a lot of the people with the money in games are just like techies, and they think the same way. It's just like buy stuff up, lay people off, whatever.
right.
What if these projects will take off when like every indie studio is someone's like pipe dream of an idea, and there's just people kind of like trading them like Pokemon cards. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
kind of
and,
rough.
right. It's why I'm like I'm always very skeptical of the sort of like and too heavy focus on the entrepreneur class of dev and how that like
Mhm.
the small business studio is like. There was just another article recently that was like, oh, all these small studios are closing. It's the death of creativity in indie games or whatever. And it's like, you know, I think that there's a lot more to the medium than the like the studios that you recognize on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's very okay to do this kind of stuff part time, and I think
Yeah,
it's like maybe the only sensible way to do it.
right.
Uh, like
And
I know of so many breakout successes, but they are like the exception.
and you usually spent 8 to 10 years making that breakout or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, and like God, even on like a double AAA scale, uh, like I know people talk to like it's old news now, but like Helldivers 2, everyone's like, "Whoa, that game came out of nowhere," and it's like, no, it's a sequel, and it took like nearly a decade to develop.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
had huge publisher backing, like,
I think Super Giants. I think the classic one you point to. You know,
oh yeah,
like even like Bastion didn't come out of nowhere. Like so many people didn't realize that the head story guy there used to be the editor
uh,
in chief of
GameStop, right?
GameStop.com.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God.
Almost like he
Uh,
knew literally everybody in the games industry.
yeah, yeah. It's always you gotta know someone, and like, yeah. I mean, Supergiant was lucky enough to like get on the 360 arcade marketplace when it was
Yeah,
still very new. Um, God, Supergiant feels like like only from like the very outside perspective, looking at like the no clip documentaries and everything, they seem like the like platonic ideal of an indie studio,
Right.
um,
And I love
and
their
that is
games.
so unobtainable.
Right. All you have to do is you spend decades both building up a long history in game criticism and also like a nice nest egg working at like EA and everything. And or yeah, they were like a lot of those people are ex Command and Conquer people, I believe. Uh,
Wow, interesting.
there was a they had a whole documentary on uh, I think a mildly unknown website called GiantBomb.com. Uh, that had no presence in the game space, I believe.
No, no, not a lot of people know about Giant
No,
Bomb.
no, there weren't any
Actually,
like
God, sorry. I just remember that tweet where someone referred to Jeff Gerstmann as Angry Dad.
yes.
Uh,
That I mean, but this is a whole other like rabbit hole. But like that's because I mean that era of like game criticism died, and now everyone's a variety
yeah,
streamer.
yeah. I mean, ah, man, 10 years ago, I was literally writing articles for my own upstart, like, games
Yes.
website because I was like, yeah, I'll totally get into the industry doing this. And I, like, went to PAX every year to, like, talk to everyone and hand out, like, business cards. And I'm like, oh, no, that window passed before I even, like, got
Right.
into it. Like, by
Right.
that point, it was, like, YouTubers.
I feel like it's starting up again. We're starting to get a new crop. Uh, they're like some old indie stalwarts, of course. We were talking about this last time,
Yeah,
but
it doesn't really feel like uh new, right? Like it's all people who just kind of have the platform already
right,
to like take that risk.
yeah, yeah. And also, I'm talking. There are plenty of people doing that, but I'm also talking about doing writing I find interesting.
Yeah, no, like I miss when writing felt so much more prominent, especially in Twitter. I think that's why I got on Twitter like
Yeah,
way back when, was like games writing. Um and a lot of those people did move on to YouTube, I think.
yeah, man.
Um
Or it's like uh, you can take the writer out of the content mill, but you can't take the content mill out of the writer. It feels like with a lot of these sites, it's
yeah.
it's like I guess it's neat if you're doing an independent thing, but also I'm in a very specific niche where I like only care about the weirdest. I'm like a source kind of person, not the engine, but like a primary source kind of person where I'm often going straight to the developers. So
Yeah, no, I'm the same way.
I don't want to hear about Helldivers 2. I want to hear about some weird niche game that no one's talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I think like the number one thing I do like after I play a game is like immediately dive into like, okay, who made this? Who is talking about the creative direction? How did this
Right.
happen? How did this get published? If it even got published. Um, that's where I'm always like super fascinated. I can never quite turn off my like how it's made brain, but I think that's what makes me enjoy games. Even on like a AAA scale, like the whole time I was playing the last Final Fantasy VII remake, I was just like, "How did this happen? Like, this feels like improbable."
Yeah. Right. Right. It's there's. I was looking at things on the side. I didn't realize Helldivers. They made Magicka. Those are the Magicka people.
Oh my god! Oh,
So
whoa!
yeah,
Isn't that an old Humble Bundle game?
that's like a Humble Bundle original classic was Magicka.
It's like Humble Bundle One. Or yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my god! I think I have that.
That is
Oh,
like yeah that and you're right 9 years between Helldivers and Helldivers 2, published by Sony. Uh,
yeah. In indie PC darling,
Sony
PlayStation exclusive with the Steam release.
Sony Interactive Entertainment, noted indie publisher.
Yes.
Uh,
Man, Sony used to be one of the harder ones to
yeah,
get published. I like remember like the Xbox 360 was a big thing, and then Nintendo was like, yeah, we publish a lot of indies, but you need a physical office space, so people would like just to get a phone number, get an office space.
right. It's all very weird. It's a very weird industry. I'm glad to
Yeah.
not be a part of. Uh,
Yeah. I guess I'm technically a part of it. It's I've like dabbled in like 3 games now that
Yeah.
like it's funny. I'm like sort of gunning to like go for a QA job because it's something I'd say I'd never do in my free time, but the reason I'd gun for it is because I've like helped QA like 3 games now.
Right.
Just
No,
because I happen to be there when someone sent me a build.
I have reached the point where I am like I do video game work, but I'm not in the video game industry, despite spending every month publishing video games. It's a different
Yeah,
thing.
at
Uh,
least I can say, well, I'm a video artist that I
yeah.
just hang out with developers, and all
Right.
of my
Right.
friends are developers.
Yeah. I've never been to nor well I think I ever go to a GDC. Uh,
It's fun.
it's
I haven't been inside, but
yeah
the
I
gardens are cool.
it's on the other side of the country. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, the flight is less
uh,
convincing than the
uh,
drive.
you're right. And I need to like I can't sell things and that's where I'm there. I go to events and now that I realize I can break even at events, like I would never go to events if I can't break even because that's a lot of money just to throw in a hole to talk to people.
Yeah,
I
it's
can
an
email them
opportunity
with it.
cost, right?
Right, and like career wise, there's no benefit for me. Uh,
Yeah,
it's like I go there so people will like me, so they'll retweet or something. Like there's no career path to like self publishing kind of thing.
yeah. GDC is like I get to see mutuals of mine in person for the
Right.
first time, and I get to like meet a couple new people that then just become mutuals that I just like share my same little internet bubble. Um, but it's hard to get work or
Yes.
like make any sort of money
Right.
there.
It is a tech conference for companies. If you're not in a company, if your company
Yeah,
isn't paying for you to go there, you probably don't need to go there.
yeah,
Or like unless it's like you're doing it basically on a shoestring budget, like. But that's all. GDC aside, so I'm trying. I was trying to when I mentioned it was an hour.
sorry.
That was me trying to close the show, but then the problem thing happened. We just kept talking.
Oh, my apologies.
No, that's my problem too. I have it's a problem I have where I'm like I should end this because it's a show and people have to do things and it has to be theoretically listenable. But I like talking to people. Just
Someone out there needs to fill exactly the amount of time that
right.
the timestamp on this episode will be.
Right. I call this a post-con hangout show because it's that thing where you all decide, oh yeah, I got to go back to my hotel room, and then no one leaves for like another 40 minutes.
Oh yeah, and that's where all the meaty stuff really is.
Yeah, that's where you talk all this shit.
Yeah.
Not on this show though. I'm the nice boy of indie games. Um,
I think so. I'd think
I
so.
I like everyone. Um, uh, no, but anyway, I actually I think I said it on this show last week that as a person, I bear no ill will towards people, just towards actions people perform. You know,
Yeah.
aside from obvious situations where people are truly monstrous, you know, but that's just me giving Twitter clarification for what I thought was a simple statement. Like, of course, I don't mean those people.
Yeah, the Twitter disclaimer that's longer than
Right,
the tweet.
right. To explain what you think should be obvious. But
Hmm.
I have a couple of questions here that are
Yeah.
the standard Indiepocalypse questions that I ask every episode as they were asked to guess. So, what's your favorite type of rock?
Rock like music. I
Interpretive, up to
mean,
you.
yeah, no, I think music is my favorite type of rock.
Okay. And follow up. This one's optional. Do you have a favorite Toho character?
I don't know enough Toho off the top of my head.
That's perfectly fine. Um, with that said, do you have any before we truly wrap up? Do you have besides promotional thing? Did you have anything you wanted to say? Anything you wanted to mention before we wrap this up?
Um, I really. I think every everything I could talk about is probably under the category of promotion because I've become a content machine.
Uh, so So work that content machine. Where can people find that content if they're looking to find your content?
All of my links are at zoewolf.gay.
Yes.
Wolf has an E at the end. You can follow me in most places. Glitch Wolf, glitch underscore wolf with an E. Um, I have no financial stake in it, but you should buy and play Street Uni X because it's an incredible game.
Yes.
And I made the intro for it, and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, it's a cool. I have maybe this is off radio. I don't know. This is private stuff. But yes, Street UDX is very cool. I second that. I will and um, I will also say, of course, you can find Indiepocalypse at indiepocalypse.com. Buy it. People inside of it get money. It's a cool thing that you can do.
Hell yeah.
If you have games to submit, if you're a game developer, submit your game at indiepocalypse.com/Patreon. I use that not slash Patreon shit. That slash submit is where you go to slash Patreon, where you subscribe to it every month. Where you can get, if you want to get just the commission games, you can do that there. It's $5 a month for the freshest games from the world of underground alternative indie game development. I go to the people who make weird bullshit and I'm like, make weird bullshit for money, and they go, yes. I go, thank you.
That's the life.
There's a lot of very cool. It's Indiepocalypse is just basically the kind of stuff that I want. I am making the thing that I wish somebody would have made for me, basically.
That is the best place to be.
Yeah. So that's all that. I alluded to tapes, indiepocalypse.com/tape or pizzapranks.com/tape markets. If you want to get either Indiepocalypse or any number of indie games in this physical cassette case with USB stick formats. But that's it. I think that's everything. I don't have anything else to say. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a true pleasure. This show is a fun. I'm glad I can email people and they go, "Want to be on the show?" They go, "Yes."
Yeah, this is cool. You have a reputation for being cool and talking to cool people.
Well, thank you. I never know. I always assume. My general assumption for my own personal reputation is to find the person I think thinks the least of me and assume that and apply that to everyone's assumption of me.
Low expectations and yield high outcomes. So
I don't know.
maybe that's not terrible, but
Right. Right. Who knows? Anyway, it's fun. It's cool to, and it's a cool thing to. I see that person does cool stuff on the internet, and you can just invite them onto a show and hang out with them, like we did today.
yeah.
Zoe, I'm shutting it down. Goodbye,
All
everyone.
right. Peace out, everyone.